Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jersey Joe Corner. It is brought to you by Big Heads Media. It is going to be a great hockey season coming right up. A lot of interesting things. Anchor.fm will help you start your podcast and get things rolling. It's going to be a lot smoother when you get the Anchor app, and it's so much easier to navigate. Even their online website at anchor.fm is very efficient, and you can do a lot of great things with it. While every shelter pet is unique, some love a good game of fetch. Others would rather snuggle together on the couch. However, there is one thing that they all have in common. They're all pure love, especially during the holiday season. Right now, millions of pets in shelters need that kind of love the same way you do this holiday season, especially when you want to adopt a nice pet. If you're thinking about getting a pet this holiday season, make sure to visit theshelterpet.org, brought to you by the Ad Council, Maddie's Fund, and the Humane Society of the United States.
With the first pick overall, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the U.S. program, Jack Hughes.
Let's go, baby!
Plays it across, Vatanen drives, score! Sammy Vatanen let it rip. It's a power play goal, and the Devils have opened it up.
Oh, my.
Nico walking in, shooting, score! Nico Hischier on the rush, ends it in overtime, and the Devils win it in Montreal.
Support for the Jersey Joe Corner podcast comes from Manscaped. They are awesome in men's below-the-waist trimming. Manscaped delivers precision tools for your kahunas. This is why Manscaped has re-engineered the electric trimmer. Their Lawnmower 2.0 has the proprietary skin-safe technology, so this trimmer won't get you in the family jewels or anywhere sensitive. Manscaped accidents are basically a fossil in the past. And don't use the same trimmer that you use to clean your face that you use downstairs. That is just gross. Manscaped has the crop preserver and anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already use that stuff for your armpits, but why not do it downstairs? That's the most smelliest part of your body. So get 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code BIGHEADS. All caps, BIGHEADS at manscaped.com. Always use the right tools to get the job done. Your kahunas will thank you. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BIGHEADS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Please use BIGHEADS, all caps. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Jersey Joe Corner with
Jersey Jim.
welcome back, everybody. It's been 6+ days. This is gonna be a more brief episode. So, Jim, it's gonna be Team USA, the Taylor Hall situation, Scott Sandelin for coach, maybe throw in some curveballs, maybe knuckle pucks.
Some quick devil in the details. Just a recap if you guys didn't see the article on Last Word on Hockey that I did on Sunday. We'll just go over some things that, could be looking at, some changes that the Devils could make to play a little bit better.
There's certainly a lot that needs to change between now and the off season. But with the month of December coming, you have the 13th, which is Team USA has to finalize their 23-man roster.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is from reading the quotes from General Manager John Van Beesbroek is they're really not going to finalize their true roster until after their two warm-up games over in the Czech Republic.
Speaking of those games in the Czech Republic, I want to mention those preliminary games, but before we do that, to tell our listeners, Scott Sandelin, you have Lassand,
yes.
And then you have Steve Miller, Brett Larson, and Jerry Keefe as the
That's
coaches.
Correct.
So I was listening to the Hockey News. They not only mentioned John Wroblewski in the same breath about being a possible part of the coaching staff for the New Jersey Devils, but they also threw in Scott Sandelin, who is with Minnesota Duluth. So let's hit on Sandelin like we did similar with Wroblewski.
Yeah, I mean, Sandelin, Minnesota Duluth, college coach, again, seems to be where the league is going. Jim Montgomery was just let go by the Stars yesterday prior to the game against New Jersey. He came from the college ranks. He was with the University of Denver, brought them to a national title. So, I mean, that seems to be the world that we're living in. I mean, look, the Flyers had Dave Haxtell. I mean, a lot of young college coaches coming up.
And it seems like, in the recent article by last time we talked, it was Granato was one of those college coaches who has Ray Shero ties. So do you think with Joey Anderson in the pipeline and being a former Minnesota Duluth guy, do you think that would be a good fit for like an assistant coach?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great fit. I mean, like you said, we talked about, a couple episode before the previous one, we talk about guys that were going to fit. And you always look for ties, and there you go. There's a tie right there. Scott Sandelin, Minnesota Duluth. Joey Anderson played Minnesota Duluth. They know each other, so I mean, that's a great fit there. That'd be a good role for an assistant. Definitely, I think you need to get. I mean, you never know. He could see him being propelled to the head coaching position, but I think you probably want to get some experience being an assistant in the NHL since it's totally different.
I believe this, these days, I know with all these legal issues going on, but it seems like if the cup of coffee is smelling nice and bold and fresh, I think Dan Balsma, who's bold and fresh, but he's stuck on another team that's even worse than the Devils, which is the Detroit Red Wings as an assistant coach, and he sees the conundrums that's going on. But what else can he do to really curb that problem with Blashill as the head coach in Detroit?
I mean, look, if anything, it's funny, you didn't think. First of all, we never thought New Jersey would be in this position that they're in. That's one. No one did. I mean, maybe I'll eat some crow because USA Today seemed to be the only people, and I think a lot of people are, speculating how they knew this information. But regardless, Detroit's got to turn things around there. I mean, you would imagine that Blashill keeps his job. I don't know. If they say they do let him go and want to change in direction, do they promote Bilesma? And then there's a candidate that the Devils could have ties to, have interest in, and he's now potentially off the board because he's in Detroit. And then do you go after a guy like Scott Sandlin, which I forgot to add to his resume? By the way, Minnesota are the back-to-back defending national champions.
And they are for a good reason. And I was listening to, I think it was Ken Campbell or one of the other guys on the Hockey News. They said, they work with a lot of players who aren't the star players, but they get the most out of their players. And they say they can see something of that coaching style in New Jersey. And you know what? We need a coach that, I wouldn't say gets the most out of like Fatorik or
I hate
Burns or any of that sort, but in a different style.
I hate to cut you off. There's potentially breaking news out of the National Hockey League right now. Elliot Friedman just posted on Twitter, hearing a coaching change coming in San Jose, hockey-related change, nothing else.
Holy shnikes. You mean Peter DeBoer is going to be out?
That appears to be what the word is. He didn't give a name, but that appears to be the direction it is heading in.
You know what's crazy? I mean, it feels like a few Tuesdays ago, but it's a Tuesday ago at this point in time. It's December 11th. John Hines got canned. December 20th was Borg getting canned by Lou Lamoriello years back.
Yeah.
And this is just like history's rewriting itself.
Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, it's developing. It's just a coaching change.
Did you just see? Elliot Friedman tweeted, Peter DeBoer is out as San Jose coach. A hockey decision.
Yeah, Pete. So
at Frege Hockey.
So there it is. Breaking news on the podcast. Peter DeBoer, former Devils head coach, and current, well, not anymore, head coach of the San Jose Sharks, is out of here. He took the train. But it's interesting.
Oh my!
It's interesting because the Sharks have been playing some good hockey. You gotta. I mean, they sit sixth in the West. They didn't get off to the greatest of starts, but they're only 2 points out of a playoff spot. Oh, well, they're 2 points behind behind Vancouver, but they're 5 points behind Vegas. But it's not like they're out of it. It's really not. They're still in it. So it's interesting that this move comes now.
It's just like LeBron tweeted, source confirms Peter DeBoer has been fired as head coach of the San Jose Sharks, purely a hockey decision. So it seems like a strategic move,
it really does.
Or a morale, as I'm starting to think of it as. And so we were just talking about Scott Sandlin and how he could possibly there. I don't see Peter DeBoer.
No, it was a train wreck. It was a train wreck.
That style of hockey.
It was a train wreck the first time it was here. People were complaining how he was mistreating the rookies. You had so many ups and downs. There were so many issues. Players were in and out of the lineup. Guys weren't developing right. It was just a whole mess.
And you need a hands-on type coach I mean, especially with these NCAA guys versus not to harp against the guys who coach juniors, but the guys who coach the collegiate level have a better understanding of who are to be NHL ready.
No, that's
Anything
about it.
else
I mean,
happening?
that's the big news right now. I mean, DeBoer out. I mean, no, it's not anything to do with anything else except for it's a hockey move, and the Sharks want to make a hockey decision. They feel like they need to take the next step. They feel like they have the team that can win, and that's it.
Corey Masisak goes. The only two guys who have been the head coach of the Devils since the summer of 2011 were both fired in a span of 8 days. Claude Julien was one of them. There's more to his. Another tweet out of it, so it's like, just thinking about it,
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody
Don Cherry would
seems to
say.
be, saying it's hockey related. People pointing the finger at the goaltending. I mean, Marty Jones turned things around in November. He was the player of the month in November, so it's got to be, Doug Wilson had to have thought this team just that he could not get this team over the hump. Been to a Stanley Cup final. He went to 2 Stanley Cup finals. Sharks just didn't perform against Penguins. And then the Devils just blew their load against the Rangers the year they faced the Kings. So it's just interesting.
I believe there's a bellwether. You're looking at Detroit and New Jersey, and Detroit still keeps their coach. New Jersey obviously, shows the pink slip to John Hines, and then you have, this crazy firing that we don't know because of legal things going on in Dallas. So even players said on NHL Network that they were shocked.
No,
and,
they didn't see it
they just
coming.
didn't see it coming because the Stars are like, no, they're like in the top 2. They're in the first seed of the wild card with Vegas. So anyone wondering, yes, San Jose.
Yeah, I mean,
5 points out on
Dallas,
Vegas.
that was just out of the blue. I mean, yesterday morning, you just see a press release from Dallas that says, unprofessional conduct. You're like, oh, what did he do? And no one seems to want to talk about it. It's bad enough where the general manager said, who went to the owner and said, yeah, you got to get rid of this guy because eventually it was going to come out. So they canned him. I mean, Rick Bowness, guy's been around. So it's not like they didn't have a quality head coach to come in and coach the Stars last night. But, I mean, again, look at you got firings left and right. And, going back to the Devils for a moment, Alain Nasreddine, I mean, he can only do so much. I mean, there's a lot of problems that the Devils have and that were covered up by moves made in the offseason that really weren't addressed or we thought were addressed properly and are coming to a head now in this season. And they're probably more than this man can solve. I mean, he's got to take one at a time. And the biggest thing I see, as like I wrote over the weekend, is the defense. They gotta fix that defense and play more with structure.
Yeah, I've been before I was at the Devils versus Rock. I mean, back in I think October, and I just remember seeing some structure in that game, but I mean, it started to all break down, and I believe it was the shootout, but shootouts don't count. but the next game after was like, what just happened? I mean, you saw what happened with, PK, or you have maybe someone on the bottom six, like Hayden, just going out there and not playing enough defense, or just picking up someone else's time on ice. Now you're starting to see both is playing, but at the same time, it's like, PK was losing his mind yesterday, like literally.
Yeah, I mean, look,
a lot of dumb penalties.
I mean, him and Ben were going at it like PK was still in Nashville last night. I mean, he took some stupid penalties. Granted, the penalty kill was played great yesterday. One of two positives that came out of the game yesterday. The other was, again, Mackenzie Blackwood standing on his head because the Devils couldn't generate offense. How do you muster 2 shots in a period and then 5 total through 2 periods was unbelievable.
I honestly thought, like, right from the get-go, they didn't have their skating legs. The Devils themselves, they just didn't, have their will to play. And I believe it's Nasruddin's move to talk to see what he can do to improve this roster. And I believe it's got to be treated like every player is making the cut to make next year's team, if you want to put it that way. I mean, Taylor Hall really doesn't give much of a
No,
date.
he doesn't.
He knows he's getting
I mean,
moved.
yeah, you could. I mean, look, he's been trying the last couple games to do his best. Okay, fine. It definitely hurts the fact that Nico's not there. Offensively, like, even when he was in the lineup, they weren't generating much, but still, he was there. He took attention away from other players. But they just, I keep going back to it. Your buddy at Pucks and Pitchforks, Vinny, he posted something. Yeah,
Vinny
Parisi posted something yesterday, echoing what I've been saying the whole season long. Is I see teams, regardless of the score, no matter how bad they are, battling hard, playing with heart, playing to get back in the game. Hell, the Ottawa Senators, doesn't matter. We know they're a bad team. Columbus, they're not, they took steps back. But they played hard every night. It doesn't matter what the final score is. But they go out there and they play their game. And if they win, they win. And if they don't, they don't. But at least they give the effort. There's just no effort.
You're definitely hitting on something, because I saw someone post that this is within the first 30% of the Devils' start of the season. This is the 4th worst record in franchise history.
I mean, take out Devils Insider posted that, I believe.
It was one of those sources that put it out.
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
so I just saw that on Instagram.
But take out the first 2 years, because this team had just moved here from Colorado. And they were a novelty in New Jersey. My parents have told me this. Yeah, they knew they were a bad team. Everybody knew it. But it was fun because it was something different. It was hockey in New Jersey. It wasn't the Rangers. It wasn't the Islanders. It was our own team. So they went there and they cheered. And they had a good time. And they fell in love with Chico. And they played. And they played hard. They gave it their best. This isn't fun. It's outright hard to watch at times.
I honestly believe, regardless of who's on the ice, if you're not participating, in showing that effort, not showing the determination, how they say we are the ones, that's just the poorest, I believe, all these slogans marketing team has put out there. I would never say we are the ones or anything like that because it's so easy
Make fun
to
of?
like make fun of and reinterpret. You got to make it hard to make fun of. And you know what? I honestly believe that there's a long, hard look into the roster.
Oh, there has to be.
Think of it this way. There has to be a moment in time where Coach Nasruddin looks into each and every one of these players, has have Peter Horchak with him, and they got to send Ray Shiro all these inside, scoops, along with if any of these kids or any of these players don't want to get any help from Dr. Amy Kimball, the team psychologist. There's a lot of red flags to point out because you really got to look a lot deeper into the root of it.
I agree. It brings me to an analogy, or not an analogy, but you go cross sports with a lot of things. I remember when Mike Singletary was in San Francisco. He's coaching the 49ers, and Vernon Davis was the tight end at the time. And completely walked off the field and didn't give two craps about anything. And then Singletary goes on one of this famous post-game rants that's up there. It's not up there with the Iverson practice or the Mike Gundy I'm a man, I'm 40 rant, but it's up there. It's like top 5. But he says, I want winners. And that's how he started. He said, I want winners. And that, it was like, all right. And he was talking about how he wants guys that want to play hard. If you don't want to play hard, you're not on my team. It went all into all that. And I was like, you know what? That's perfect because these guys, they don't have that champion's mindset. Maybe it's the fact it's all losing. And I get it. It gets in your head because it's a culture thing. But you got to try to drown it out and get it out of there. And I agree with you that there needs to be a hard look at this roster, top to bottom. You want guys that want to play here. Want guys that are going to try hard every night, give it their best every night. Heck, you brought Mikey McLeod up. All right, let's see what he can do against Colorado. And I'm not talking in a bottom 6 role either. Put him where he's supposed to be.
If he can bring some speed, some grit. I mean, in the preseason, I love seeing that he was getting into those dirty areas that he used to go into in Mississauga with Nathan Bastian. And now he can prove that he can steal someone else's spot regardless of who they are.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter about the name on the back. It's the logo right on the front, as Coach Herb Brooks would say.
Exactly. And then, him and Bastian lead the team down in Binghamton or up in Binghamton, whatever. But those guys are tied 13.
Somewhere in upstate.
New York, exactly. But they lead the team 13 points each. So, McLeod's up. I would think Bastian could be coming up sometime soon. I mean, you put those two guys together, they've been working magic this year.
You know what? I always like the fact that when the Devils scouted the both of them in that draft.
Yeah, I did too.
They had chemistry. They were like twins. I don't mean like the Sedins. I just mean like twins in general, where they thought like one another. They knew where each other were going to be. And so you have two guys that processing the game within the game, on the same line. You just play them that way regardless. And Bastian, to me, fits the team longer term as well. Like, Bastian is a tall, young Brian Boyle-like figure that we need. I saw one of those videos where Bastian got a shot in the kahunas, still got up, blocked a shot before, and then the same play. I mean, this is the grit and determination of a Devil. We need each other player to start, playing. I don't care if you lose a few extra stem cells in that moment of time. You know, you lose your nerves. You know, a little bit like that, but it's a team move.
So I was I was just looking on Twitter real quick, and I saw that Dave Barr and the rest of the assistant coaching staff have been let go as well. That includes former Devils goaltender Johan Hedberg.
Moose.
So, but yeah, I agree. Like Bastian, he just represents everything that you want in the team, and you know he's awesome. You know, he's doing well down on the farm, and I like it. Like you said, it's a good move, bringing those two together, drafting them, and they're playing well together. So hopefully they both will play together sometime this season up here. You just want guys that want to win, and that's the thing. And you want guys that want to play hard. And not to say that these guys aren't playing hard, but the problem is the effort is just not there every night, and they just seem to give up so easily.
I don't know exactly who to point the finger at, but it always seems like there's at least one or two players on at least one player on the forward line and at least one player on the defensive line pairing that seems to create a couple chinks in the chain. And it always seems to really down McKenna Blackwood and Louis Domingue. And, you know, back to the Buffalo game, I like that Louis expresses frustration breaking that paddle of a stick in half. Frustration. I can understand that. I feel the same way too. I feel like breaking a bunch of them if I had his money.
Yeah, I would definitely
would.
do it. I would definitely break. I would definitely break stuff. I would definitely be breaking a stick if I was that team. I'd be breaking sticks left and right because they are just not. It's just not cutting it right now. You know, it's not good hockey.
It's not healthy. I mean, there's something in the locker room. I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, you know, we talked about getting Abby Mastracco on. You know, I'm not sure if she knows, but I'm sure she and some other writers that go deep behind the scenes, not being Amanda Stein, Devils property, you know, that contract, you can't say certain things, but I'm sure there's something deep behind there. There's something going on that Shiro's finding out now that he's going to have to make a general manager's decision because, you know, things aren't working on the ice. Something's probably not working off the ice along with
Yeah,
it.
it's clearly something is not working on the ice. And, I mean, the elephant in the room, God, I hate to say it, but it's the guy that's got 1 year left on his contract that
You mean Halsey?
Yeah, that's been tied to a lot of trade rumors lately.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if I wake up tomorrow like I did a few years ago when the Devils traded for Sammy Vatanen because they traded away Henrique for. Surprised if I woke up seeing that Taylor Hall was traded morning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could happen. I mean, look, Tyler Kelly, one guy we had on, reported over the weekend that he was hearing that the Devils in Colorado were in trade talks and that Taylor Hall had played his last home game as a Devil and that a trade would happen by the end of the road trip. It was backed up by a couple of people I talked to that the Devils in Colorado were in trade talks. Things have quieted down a little bit, but it makes sense since the Devils in Colorado play Friday that a deal would get done before that game. You good? You back?
All right, so the first portion of the show got saved on Anchor, so luckily we didn't lose anything.
Oh, that's good. All right, so as we were talking, we were getting into talking about our next topic. We got a little sidetracked with Team USA, but we got what we needed to there. But we were talking about how Taylor Hall was the elephant in the room and how, he could be a problem. And I was just talking about how our buddy Tyler Kelly, who's been on the show, put it out a tweet on Saturday talking about how he had a source had said the Devils and the Avs were in trade talks and that Hall played his last game for the Devils at home and the trade would be finalized sometime at the end of the week. Backed up by a couple of people I talked to, the Devils and Colorado were in trade talks for Hall. And it makes sense considering the two teams play each other on Friday.
I absolutely agree 110%. I mean, there's not many trades I can say that about over the years. And looking at Taylor Hall over the years, let's think about it in like the stock market. Taylor Hall is an asset, but he's more of a liability for us now, but he'll be an asset more for the Avalanche because he'll be worth something more, getting us a big return on equity. And so his highest point of equity was when he edged out Nathan McKinnon for the Hart Trophy.
Yeah.
For the Hart Trophy, the 93-point season. So basically selling Taylor Hall within those few seasons since being removed from that is the best business move to do, especially with the locker room so sour. And after having Hall calling out the New Jersey Devils in the offseason, I feel you have to begin to Marie Kondoize this conundrum.
Yes, I agree. I think that he just needs to move on. Like he needed to move on in Edmonton. I think to be honest, I think this might be more of a pure rental from Colorado's point of view because they just have so many pieces that they would need to move or readjust because they're such a financial team. With McKinnon's contract coming up in a couple of years, he got Makar, Landeskog's due. So to fit him in at a number that he would have to take a pay cut. And, people questioned what I had to say the other day when I was in conversation with a friend on Facebook about, Hall's issues. And I made a comment that I said, I heard in talking with people that, he was even a bad locker room guy when it came to Edmonton, his time there. So I'm not surprised to see that this is an issue again.
And I believe now that it's more public now that, you can find it on YouTube, but I just see, you look at Hall's, demeanor in these post-game, and you can see, the way he dresses, he doesn't look like he's emotionally invested in being part of the team's future. I think he's sick and tired of, feeling like his career is a jinx.
Yeah.
But a lottery ball specialist.
Oh, yeah, he made the joke that he was a lottery ball specialist.
Just where I got that from.
But, it, and I keep trying to keep comparing two players because they've always, but one player, the guy who finished second in MVP voting, seems to keep raising his level and taking it to a higher level and proving to the world that he should have been the one that won the Hart Trophy that year.
I think Nathan McKinnon will win it this year. Mark my words.
I think it's between him and Jack Eichel right now. I really do.
Because McKinnon just seems so determined right now on an Avalanche team that's so stacked up front, and they have a lot of success on that blue line. You talk about Cale Makar. I wasn't so sure if he was going to go third overall, or I remember there were talks where he might have gone first overall, and the Devils still took Nico Hischier, which I think is the smart move long term. But you never know about those those Canadian midget junior hockey league kids, the tier 2 league for junior. You just never know. And he went to UMass Amherst, and he turned out to be a real success. And he came up last year late in the season, and he lit it up in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, Makar's been a beast. He's really been a beast. Right now, it doesn't look like the Devils will see Makar in this game on Friday as he's dealing with an injury. But that could change.
I still think there could be a trade on that same day if things are going to heat up.
Well, it makes sense because Colorado and Columbus made a trade before they played each other in Sweden a couple of years ago.
You just send them to the next locker room.
Yeah. So it just makes sense. It feels right. I know Arizona, there's been talks to Arizona and others, but I just think Colorado gives you the best possible return for a trade.
I just think that you're looking at possibly, like Chris Johnson said, 4 pieces. If Byram's not in there, which is most likely not, it's Connor Timmins.
First round pick.
Alex Newhook.
Yeah.
I think that's a start. And Newhook is a freshman now, but he's going to be a sophomore. He's 20 years old. I mean, if he's too good for his, last 2 seasons, basically in the NCAA for Boston College for the Eagles under Jerry York, and the Devils also have really good ties with BC and the NCAA Hockey East as well, because Tommy Fitzgerald and Ray Shearer have ties there.
Absolutely. I mean, they seem to be wanting to go to the college route with a lot of guys they draft, which is good because they can draft and develop with the college game, because you see a lot of guys coming out from college hockey. And, Alex Newhook is a player that's been tied to this trade. A lot of people have talked about it. Even Tyler Kelly was figuring that he could be a part of this trade. So it's not out of the question.
I mean, remember last year when I wrote my little scouting report and I showed you what I wrote from last year?
Yes.
In a text. Does that sound a lot like a player that we need in return for a player like Hall in a package?
Absolutely. Definitely sounds like a player we could get. He's a good fit.
And this is one of the reasons, I know we talked about the World Junior US team, but it's one of the reasons why when I watch Team USA is to look at the opponents as well. And when those players are draft eligible for that upcoming draft, I take notes on every one of those players possible. And I try and get in as much notes as I can, because who knows if there's a trade for that player coming. Who knows for the Devils at least.
I mean, I was listening. I think Craig Button was on TSN today or yesterday, Vancouver, someplace. He was looking at the Finnish roster again this year, the guys that are draft eligible that are going to be playing for Finland. They seem to be just producing players left and right these days.
It just seems like besides, you know, the Devils drafting players from Canada, Russia, Sweden, it also seems like Finland is another good source. Like Arni Talvidia, who is another really good player who's in Penn State right now, and Penn State is going to be playing Michigan. But back to Finland, the World Juniors and producing players. Eetu Pakila was drafted by the Devils recently. I wouldn't be surprised if he made their roster.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised going forward he's going to make the roster. I mean, it's a shame that no one got to see him play at the tournament last year because he was hurt.
I mean, despite him being a small size, but he does have a lot of speed, and there is one of the Finnish writers that is on Twitter, and he talked about how well he's come from being drafted in late rounds and starting to really show that he has a lot of speed and a lot of grit and determination. For Sweden, there's a kid that's Serbian named Nikola Pasic, who's really determined to be a really good player that the Devils drafted. And this kid's a real puck hog.
With Kelly Rudy, there was
Yeah, there's just so much talent. This tournament is so much fun to watch. It really is. There's just loads of talent. It's a fun tournament. These kids just go up and down, and they make mistakes, but that's what the fun is in this tournament.
And we do see where these coaches get their coaching style from, and this is
general manager that always wants to win, but in the process.
Oh, you're tuning it in.
Yeah, I just have the Sportsnet feed on. Sorry, it's a little loud.
I was just wondering if we were just tuning in, but I was gonna say I want to see what Scott Sandlin can do as the head coach for Team USA, along with seeing who else maybe Ray Shero could probably trade for, maybe before Team Canada makes their final roster and Team USA. So,
yeah,
I would like to see Quentin Byfield on Hockey Canada, because the way it's going, the devil would be in the details, because you never know if you're getting Byfield or Lafreniere.
Yeah, I think Byfield has a great chance to make that Canadian roster.
I know he wasn't listed a few days back, but he really should be.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing is Canada is just listing the roster in bits and pieces.
But I'd be very disappointed if he didn't make it.
I would be too. I mean, Bob McKenzie made this great point today when talking about the World Juniors. He says, Canada, he says, the other nations, they take their best players available regardless of age. It seems that Canada always wants to go with an older team, a veteran team. And, unless the kid is super exceptional, they usually try to stay away from bringing young players. But he says, why? Well, just bring the best available players regardless of age.
Because they're still under 18
Exactly.
years old.
So just bring them.
And it's just going to be an interesting tournament. I mean, you see all the way these kids develop. Like, I made in my last article that talking about how the Devils are changing things up, from the coaching and the playing, is that if today was the final NHL draft lottery, the Devils would by default get Quentin Byfield, and I said, he's a center who plays a lot like a more skilled version of Evgeny Malkin, and having that third deep center would just only make the Devils lineup more young and more reliable, with Zajac, getting older. And who knows how long you can rely on Zajac. Nothing against him. It's just, Father Time's not on your side.
No, it's not. I mean, I think Zajac's just going to retire, Devil. It makes sense. as much as he does have trade value to a team, I just don't see him going. I just don't see him going anyplace else. It's just that's just my feeling.
Like I said to you off air, my gut feeling is, PK Subban just doesn't fit the Devils defensively, and I think there are other teams that would need a guy with offensive firepower that have a defender on his left side, and I think it would be better for him to be on a team that's in the playoffs that has that style for him.
Yeah,
and I just think that the Devils can eat half that contract.
Yeah, they
and get something back.
Yeah, they just don't seem to have. Something's just not right there with him. It just doesn't. Nothing seems to be right. But it's interesting. Everybody thought this was a great trade at the time. You thought, okay, he's going to help the defense. He's just not bringing what everybody expected, and then maybe we should have noticed something last year with Nashville when he missed games because of an injury. Then he didn't return. He got beat by Rocco Grimaldi. Rocco Grimaldi is a fast kid, but so he.
But
it was just like he just got beat. He just looked old and slow.
I just think that the way he's at could be on a more defensively sounded team that needs that extra veteran presence who doesn't need to play a top 2 role. And if it's going to be, someone paying that other $4.5 million, the Devils are going to swap. I think it's the right business move. Get back your picks. And you get back maybe a nice, really good, player that's ready to come up to the NHL. I'm not sure who would give up a roster pick, roster player like that with a really high skill, but who knows? Because you have PK for the next 2+ seasons. At this point,
and at $9 million, it's not.
So
it's not a good contract.
It may be a bad contract, but the money will go up over time because I think it's 2021 in the off season that July that the TV deal starts to begin.
Yes, that is the right time frame for new TV deal. As we talked about before, could be similar to what the NFL has.
Yeah, and before things would get punted away on this podcast week, it's the season that always keeps on giving, and we want to thank our listeners this year. I know the hockey season has been pretty disappointing,
to say the least.
But we know that our listeners actually are listening. And on one other episode that I put on SoundCloud, I was testing out SoundCloud. One guy messaged me, how are the Devils going to turn this whole thing around? I said, there's a lot going on, and there's like I said, there's a lot of growing pains, and there's a lot of singling things out before the season's over, and you got a bunch of new coaches coming in, but who knows if you bring back Johan Hedberg to become a goalie coach?
That's a possibility. That's definitely a possibility.
I I mean, he's a former player, and the Devils had a really good, relationship with him. I know it was under Lamoriello, but the Penguins also had Hedberg, if I recall correct.
Yes, they did. He was
So,
there. He was there. I believe he was there in 2001 when the Devils beat the Penguins in the Eastern Conference Final to go to the Stanley Cup that year.
And I believe it was 2008, 2009. One of those years, the Penguins ended up winning it under Shiro. So I would like to think that if something does happen, there's going to be a lot of context to it. But I think there's going to be a lot of new faces. The Taylor Hall trade, I mean, it can't come any sooner than that.
Yeah, I think so too.
But until there's some other action happening, I think this is probably going to do it for now. And for those who are wondering, Manscaped is on our Twitter, and as well as Jim and I also have Instagram. So we will put it in our stories. So you can follow us there. We're on Anchor.fm. We're on Spotify, to other places, including Stitcher. So if you have Apple Podcasts, we're easy to find at Jersey Devil OG, and
Jim Berenger on Twitter and Instagram. So follow us.
So
ask us questions. We love to interact with you.
And with 2020 coming, keep those ideas in mind. We love to interact. And, of course, the Big Heads Media, BIGHEADS, media.com. You can go there, click on the BHM hockey logo. Part of the Eastern Conference area is the Jersey Joe Corner podcast logo. And we have our episodes there from transistor.fm. So you can listen to those right there. And without further ado, I wish everyone a happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. We'll probably have one more before the holiday season. And then we're off for Christmas.
Also, to our listeners out there, we observe those federal holidays like a Christmas Eve, a Christmas Day, and we also observe New Year's Eve because, those are times, we're either with our families or, we just got back from work. And I'm sure you have a feeling because I know you're probably tired out. And you might need a drink or two to take off the edge and maybe listen to this podcast. So thank you for your support. And until next time, let's go Devils.
Let's go Devils.
Peace.
Peace.